Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Welcome to Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. I am your host, Jeff, and I'm super stoked. My guest today is Mr. V Santura. Did I say that right? Kind of, sort of?
Yeah. V Santura. That's about it, yeah.
Which is his stage name. I guess you would call it your artist name, correct?
Artist name, yeah, exactly.
Kind of like Prince has the symbol, you're the V Santura.
Kind of like, like Madonna.
There we go. Yeah.
We're also very much alike, almost. No, not really. But
you do look kind of, I don't know, maybe just a little bit, but not exactly. So, Victor, I want to thank you, and you will hear me call him Victor because that's his given name. So, Victor, I want to thank you.
Obviously, V simply stands for Victor, so it's not a big secret either.
Yeah, that's true. I for a while though, when I first discovered you, which was Triptykon back on the first album, there was a real air of mystery, like who is this dude? You know what I mean? And so it really worked really well, but it's tough. It's like ask Tobias how long you can stay, secret, or Paul Stanley or those kind of guys. You know what I mean? You can only, especially in the world of the internet, you can't hide for long, right?
It's almost impossible, and nowadays it's kind of pointless. And I also never tried to hide my real name because I don't have a problem with it. Yeah. Basically, the thing is why I have a stage name is when I joined Dark Fortress, and I was still pretty young at that time. Everybody in the band simply had an artist name. Everybody had a stage name, and it was part of the image of the band. So when I joined the band, when I was like at the age of like when was that, 20? Then I simply also had to come up with a stage name for myself, or an artist name. And then I thought to myself, okay, I don't really want to call myself after some random loser orc from Lord of the Rings or whatever. So I just took a name that where I have a personal connection with. So basically, the name Santura is a real last name, and my father's mother was born under the name Santura.
Oh,
so
okay.
That was her maiden name, and I always found the name Santura just simply phonetically really, really cool. And already as a kid, I thought like, wow, if I ever become an artist or something like that, then I would like to use that name Santura. And then when I actually was forced to take an artist name, then I thought, okay, I'm gonna just call myself Santura. But I had to add the V because somebody else in the world already seemed to use that name, so I had to extend it. And I thought like, then I add the V, which stands for Victor.
That's pretty.
But I never meant to make it a big secret, even though, when I was a teenager and I discovered black metal through bands like Dark Throne, A Blaze in the Northern Sky, something like that, that we talk about like early mid-90s. I was really fascinated by that, and I was also fascinated by the image of those bands, that you couldn't really tell who are the real people behind it. They were like somehow unreal figures, and they were in a way scary and exciting, and that was something that I always liked about black metal and found very fascinating about it. But I think this is something that nobody can really uphold nowadays, or maybe some bands do, but on the long-term run, especially if a band gets famous, just like Ghost, then at some point somebody
or like we said about Emperor, Isan or Samoth, or it's kind of part of and parcel of the and I mean, obviously Quorthon, maybe one of the very first guy, and Venom, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
Had those guys doing that one name thing that was and then of course there was King Diamond. It's Kim Bendix, but he went with So it's not anything new or anything, and it is kind of a black metal. I don't want to say it's a trope, but it is kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
what really makes sense about your name, though, is that, funnily enough, that for the longest time, I would always equate Santura with Satan in a weird way, because it's very close to the, but it has nothing to do with it. You know what I mean?
It doesn't really have anything to do with it.
Yeah. And you're way too
It's
nice
a
a guy to
coincidence.
be, you're way too nice of a guy to be satanic. I've seen enough interviews of you to go, yeah, this guy's not too, he's not one of those evil, even the stuff from the early Eshon interviews where he's in like side view and he's in shadows and it's real mysterious and cool.
Yeah.
Turns out that I forget what's Eshon's real name. Damn it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I don't actually know.
I can't remember his first name. Somebody's gonna know, but he's like a super nice, kind of quiet guy, and just Vigrid or Vigard. I think it is Vigard.
That might be, yeah.
So, hey, man. Well, listen. First of all, I want to thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
Patient on the back and forth with the text messages and stuff. And it was funny going back to what we were saying about the nom de plume sort of. It's like, what if everybody was walking around calling Abbat Ulve? Like, who talks to him that way? Nobody would talk to him that way at a show, or if a fan met him, they'd be like, Abbat. They wouldn't be like, hey, Ulve, hey, what's going on, man? You know what I mean? So it's just kind of funny, but
yeah. But I think with Abbat, it's a bit more extreme. And I think also, I don't know, he probably is Abbat also besides the stage. And
he is, exactly. You're right. He lives that thing. But quick story here, and I'll make it fast so we can get into the meat of the interview. I've seen you 4 times, all with Triptykon. And as I mentioned, I'm kind of a newbie to Dark Fortress, and I've spent a ton of money in the last 2 days. Thank you, Victor. I appreciate that.
I have to thank you for that. Or let's say our record company has to thank you for that. I don't know if any rise from that.
I've dropped some cash. Let's just say that. Anyway, we'll get to Dark Fortress in a minute, but so I got to see you 2 days back in May. I was at Maryland Death Fest, and I caught both shows.
Yeah,
and
I figured, because if you say you live like 1.5 hours north of Philadelphia, then
I'm actually 1 hour directly from my doorstep to the soundstage.
Wow.
1
Okay.
hour. So I was just down to see this band. Do you know Dodsrit? I
know the name, but I would have to lie if I would tell you that I actually know their music, because
gotta check this band out. I'll send you a link to their latest album. Fantastic. They opened the Black Braid Lamp of Murmur tour on Friday night down in Baltimore. So I was at that. I've been doing a lot of concerts the last week or so I'm kind of recovering from that. But to get back to MDF, that was an amazing experience to see you guys close out the main stage, because there was later stuff with the grindcore and stuff like that. But it was just an amazing experience to see you close out. I believe the first night was the Triptykon set, and the second was the Celtic, or do I have it backwards?
I think you're right. I think it was like that. Yeah,
we started. And I don't know if you got to see many other acts, if you went to see any of the other bands, or if you were kind of cocooned in your little world back there, because sometimes the headliners, it's a little more...
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, that's tough, because that led me to what I was going to say, was because you were one of the guys you do run into a lot of rock stars, if you want to call them, you guys, at that festival, because a lot of them that are on the more of the undercard bands, they're just walking around the crowd. They're just hanging out.
I usually do that too, and I have no problem with that. And I did that a little bit. It was just that at Maryland Death Fest, as much as I loved the shows, I slept like shit. Like, especially the first night, we arrived relatively late, and then we still stayed up. And then I guess I missed the right moment to go to bed, and then the body gets so confused with the jet lag and everything. So on the first night, I couldn't sleep at all. So basically, I was just lying around in the hotel room all day after sound check, and then went to the show relatively short before we were on. Also, I had some I was meeting some friends already there.
Of course.
So, and on the next day, I spent a little bit more time at the festival, also at the harbor, basically, in a restaurant, and we had some beers, but not many, because I don't drink before the show, but like also met another friend or friends, and
right, sure.
So I was not really able to watch a lot of bands,
Well,
unfortunately.
I was gonna say that was kind of a question in that you're at these, Maryland Death Fest is kind of cool and unique in a lot of ways because
Yeah.
it's big, but it's small. It's not like Hellfest or Vakken or
No,
Download or, which is just this massive sea of people. It's 3 to 4 to 5,000, I think, max. I think it's
Exactly,
5 or 6 somewhere. You can still kind of have that almost club-like experience of maybe running in. I ran into Carl Sanders, who I know. I ran into the Evoking dudes. I ran into the Shape of Despair. I forget his name, Jari or something like that. So I'm like, well, and I'm very, as you can tell, I reached out to you. I'll come up. I'm not a dick. If you're eating or you're with other people, I'm not going to be that guy, but I'll walk up and go, hey, man, fucking killer show, dude. That was awesome. And usually that leads to, some type of discourse. Yeah. But I gotta admit, I was kind of hoping you're probably easy to spot because you're a pretty tall dude.
But I have the feeling that not a lot of people really recognize me because
I was curious about that.
Also with Triptykon, I wear a little bit of makeup, not crazy much, but I hardly ever get approached. And the funny thing is really, we had 2 guests on that weekend, and those 2 guests were Reed St. Mark and Ron Marks, the former Frost members.
I saw the picture,
Yeah. And for example, also they were already there on the second day. We also had sound check in the morning, and they were watching the sound check. And then, like Tom and me and Reed, we were walking backstage then, and there were already a couple of fans.
Yeah.
They wanted autographs from Tom. They were like, "Oh my God, Reed!" They were all over him, and
nobody even talked to you.
Nobody gave a shit about me or Hannes, our drummer. And it was like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been in the band, 40 years ago for 5 years, that still counts more than being in the band.
But I would assume at this point you're kind of used to that because you're literally, and you're literally playing with a legend of the metal genre. Course. I mean, there is very few people that you can point to and go, he's like the Lemmy of death metal and black metal. He's like that guy that everybody knows.
Also, nobody looks like Tom. Tom has its completely unique personality. Everybody recognizes him, and I'm not angry about that, not at all. I mean, that's also a reason why this band Triptykon has a proper career. So I'm not I'm not complaining, and it's also nice that I can run around or walk around on festivals like Maryland Death Fest or whatever in Germany, Partisan or something. I can just go out into the audience, watch bands, and usually I'm private, and
that's cool.
I have the best of both worlds. I can basically like early August we played this festival Partisan in Germany, and before us was I Am Morbid, Dave Vincent. Old school morbid angel death metal stuff, so I wanted to watch them a bit. So they were the band that played right before us, so I still went out with Hannes, our drummer. We watched three songs just from the crowd perspective, and then went back and had our own show. And it's absolutely cool. You can do that, nobody bothers you, and then you still get to be on that stage. So
I'd be that guy that if I saw you and Hannes, so I'd be like, "Hey, dudes." Well, I know Hannes. I've met him before. That's not through the interview, so he might remember me. I would think because we had a pretty cool interview with him and Morean. And although I felt bad for Hannes because with Morean he didn't get a lot of. Between Morean and I, we were kind of the dominant personalities as far as talking. So Hannes is a little bit quieter. You know what I mean?
Depends on the situation. Hannes, I think Hannes is a very smart guy and very good at talking, and he has a lot to say. If the topic comes up, he's also very interested in like a lot of things, like political things and stuff. So you can have very, very long and deep conversations with him. But I also know that Morean. I mean, I love the guy, and I know Morean. Basically, he's my oldest friend. I know him since I'm like 9 years old.
Right.
And
he can talk.
Yeah, in a serious situation, he can be
he's like me. He's an alpha.
Yeah. He's not like, as a person, he's not like a dominant asshole, not at all. He's a super kind, wonderful person, but he's very good at talking, and
he's very good speaker. And he's very intellectual too. Dude's
he is
very, very smart, man, like crazily smart. So I have to say, there were a lot of epic moments at MDF, but the epic moment for me, without question, not even debatable,
A dying
was
god.
A Dying God, dude. It was so fucking epic. I was like, oh my God. And unfortunately, I'm old, and
Thank
by
you.
the time you guys came on, my legs were giving out. I'm 60 years old. I was wiped out. I didn't want to go up to the front where I had been for the day before for the Triptykon set. I just couldn't be in that throng. So I kind of held back. V, I could not speak the next day, man. I was like croaking out because I was screaming, I am a dying God. I was just going nuts, man. I got to imagine that's a fucking highlight for you too, right?
It is, and I think Maryland Deathfest was the second time ever that this song was performed live. The first time we did it in London at
Right.
at Early May Incineration Festival, and that was indeed the very first time that song was ever played live. Also, Celtic Frost never played it live,
Right.
and we thought about it before in the past, but we are not a band that likes to use playbacks. We play everything live. There's nothing coming from tape except for the intro, of course. But the concert intro
Right.
that's pre-recorded, of course. But we don't want to have like guitars or keyboards or whatever stuff coming from a playback. And with that song, to do it with one or two guitars only is really, really difficult. Also, with that song, when we were talking about making a live arrangement, I was already kind of aware that Tom would probably want to focus on the lead vocals because it's such a intense song, and he's also very exposed in that song. So I thought, like, okay, I have no idea how we can make this song work with one guitar only, because there's just so much more going on. Until like a couple of months ago, I had the idea, okay, if I have two amps and if I use a looper, and first I just play the first main riff into that looper, then switch to the other amp and add all those additional harmony guitars, and do it like that, then it might work. And then everybody was excited, and we tried it out, and we are all very, very glad that we tried it out, because it really also feels for us, for the entire band, that this is the highlight at the moment of every show. And we will probably also keep it in the live set. Also, the reactions we get from the crowd, like the first time we played it in London, I had goosebumps all over.
Yeah.
Also, to be honest, like
I did in the crowd, dude. I was like, oh my God, no way, right?
Yeah. Also, the first time we played it, I was honestly quite nervous about it. I was a bit tense because, it's only one guitar. You play with this looper. So if you play one little mistake,
it goes off, you're kind of
just
fucked.
repeat over and over every 8 fucking bars. You hear the same mistake. So my hands are like, oh, whoa, okay, now don't fuck anything up.
Now I got to start it all
It
over.
went well, and when I knew, okay, now everything is fine, and I also heard how Tom was performing these vocals, and we realized, okay, it's working, and this weight came off my shoulders, and then I could really like dive into the atmosphere of the music. It was just like pure goosebumps. And
that's, I mean, that song is very, it's very much a Martin Eric Kane song. I mean, you know, it's so emblematic of his persona in Celtic Frost. I gotta imagine it's probably was pretty emotional for Tom to try to connect deeply to that song, because that, like you said, it's a very vocally exposed track where you're kind of out there on a limb, and I can imagine for Tom that was pretty tough to do.
Yeah, I think the first time, like, I don't know if Tom really gets like nervous or something, but like I had the feeling we both were a bit tense before the first time doing it, because we both are in a way very exposed. Tom even more than me. Right. I mean, I play guitar, but doing vocals is always, to a certain degree, more personal. You have to pour more of your. And I mean, you with a guitar, I create it with my fingers, the sound. With vocals, you basically, your entire body creates, so it's always more personal in a way. Sure. But also getting this feedback and we get a kind of similar feedback for that song in every show now, and it's also very encouraging. It's always this massive energy boost, and I'm really glad that we are doing this now.
Yeah, it was. It was the high point of the festival for me, and there were a lot of high points. I mean, so many
Yeah.
killer bands. You know, Paradise Lost doing Draconian and
Mhm.
and Dusk. I'd never seen Dusk. They were fucking amazing, and the
Cool.
Doom Night was kind of my thing. Evoking and Mournful Congregation. I'm like,
Mhm.
man, I'm never gonna get to see these bands if I don't go do this. So that's why I always try to do it. I will say at 60, man, it's getting harder and harder. Each year,
Right.
I'm like, fuck. And I always say, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink. And that
And
never
do you
quite,
keep it?
nah, not quite now.
No.
Because the further I get into the literally, honestly, partly with my condition too,
Yeah.
the pain I start to feel, I need to have something to help me kind of get through 12 hours. It's a 12-hour day on Saturday and Sunday. That's crazy. You know, that's pretty intense. So, hey,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more on that regarding that. Do you have any funny, crazy, weird festival stories that you can tell without fear of any international authorities tracking you down? In other words, anything that's legal. Anything that's legal.
Anything is legal. Funny festival stories, like whoa, I would have to dig deep. Like from the recent festivals that we did, I don't really have much crazy funny stuff to tell because unfortunately our reality with festivals, I mean, unfortunately, I don't want to complain.
Right.
I'm grateful for all the festivals that we do, but the reality is we always arrive like something like 2 to 3 hours before the show at the festival. Then you just come there, eat something. Like for many shows recently, we've always been last band.
Mm-hmm.
So you go on stage, you play, and then I feel like I'm really relaxed and would also like to do party or whatever. But you know, then the party is over.
Yeah, everybody else is,
because everybody leaves, and then after an hour, our shuttle goes. We go back to the hotel, and that's it. I maybe have one beer after the show.
It's not crazy rock and roll party.
No, it's not. I mean,
strippers and hookers, right? It's
not really. I mean, I love hanging out after the show and talk to people, but before the show, I'm kind of
focused.
Yeah, I want to focus, and I'm not very social before the show. Also, when people talk to me, okay, I will talk back. I'm not ghosting anybody, but I'm not very talkative before the show because you just maybe you're a bit tense. You want to concentrate. And after that, after the show is done, then I feel like really relaxed and outgoing. But so I always love it when we are not last band. If there's like one or two bands after us, because then I can actually hang out. And enjoy myself a little, but that's not so possible usually.
Yeah. Also on that, I would imagine, what's your favorite thing about playing live, other than the act of playing live? Because that's usually what it's all about: the getting on the stage, the connecting. I would imagine travel's probably your least favorite thing about it, because it's just such a lot of that to.
It depends. Of course, it's a necessary evil, and I don't know if anybody really enjoys the act of sitting in a plane for 12 hours. Like, especially if you're like, you know, economy class. I'm 6 feet tall, and then you sit like this for like 10 or 12 hours. I mean, I would have to lie if I would say I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anybody does, but to a certain degree, I have to admit, I like traveling.
Okay.
And I love the fact that I can go to places that I would usually never reach if it wasn't for the music. For example, the next show is going to be in Colombia in like 1.5 weeks from now. Friday we are flying out. It's in a town called Manizales. And I don't know if I would ever come to Colombia in my life. And there's not really a reason. It's not the first country that you would have on your bucket list to go on vacation,
right?
But I'm kind of excited about that, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I know it's a long time sitting in the plane, and that's mostly what I get to see. But you know, we're gonna land in Pereira. That's the town where the airport is, and then I think we have like a shuttle ride of like, I expect something like 2 to 3 hours. And then you sit in the shuttle and you just drive through the country to the next city, and at least you get a glimpse of the country. You get some impressions, and you get to see something, a different culture, different vegetation, different everything. And I find that super exciting. And to a certain degree, it's the traveling aspect that I really, really love about
Interesting.
touring. Because, yeah, or then later this year we're gonna play in Santiago, Chile, and it's super close to the Andes, and I'm crazy about mountains and like high alpine stuff, and
Oh yeah.
maybe our drummer and me, we're gonna fly in like 3-4 days earlier and see if we can have a trip to Aconcagua base camp. You know, Aconcagua is the highest mountain of South America, and of course there is no question we are not gonna climb on top, because you should really be prepared for that, and it takes about like a three weeks.
Right.
It's an expedition, but you can basically go to a place, to the national park, that you can actually see the mountain, and that's like
You're close.
reachable in a day trip.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I'm so gonna do that,
Pretty
because
fucking cool,
and I love that.
Yeah.
So also like the first time, you know, like in 2007, I had the honor and the luck to be live guitarist of Celtic Frost, and we did 2 very, very long tours, like back to back, like 4.5 weeks in April in all of Europe, and then I think I was at home for 2 nights, and then we did another 4 or 5 weeks in the United States with Type O Negative.
Yeah, I didn't know about that, man. I missed it completely. Wow. Okay, go ahead.
That was one of the craziest experiences, and I guess from that time I would also have some funny stories from backstage.
Pete Steele and the boys. Yeah, I'm actually having I'll be having Kenny and
Awesome,
and Kirk on for their new band Sun Don't Shine.
Fantastic.
Which I think weirdly, the Sun Don't Shine band is on Corpse Paint Records, which I think one of your bands is on. Right?
Exactly. Rootbrain, my new band, my new Finnish band, we are on the same label as Sun Don't Shine.
I know, so weird.
Because that's also the connection comes, because Andrew from Corpse Paint Records, he was the merch guy of Type O Negative on that tour.
Right. Yeah.
And we kind of lost touch after that tour, but we got along really, really well, Drew and me. And you know, for many, many years, I was not on any social media platform. Like, I was just like, I had my webpage and that's it. I don't want that. But I could sometimes see if, for example, Dark Fortress made a Facebook post, and I could see the comments that Drew was posting, like, "Hey, say hi to Victor," and I noticed that I just had never any way to get back to him.
Right.
And then 2 or 3 years ago, he started Instagram. I was finally on Instagram, and then we hooked up again,
connected,
and connected. And you know, when we had this show at Hell's Heroes Festival with, you know, in Houston, with the first Celtic Frost old school set in March 2023, then he came, and then we met and hooked up again. And it's kind of cool to be on the same label with those guys.
I'm gonna have I just interviewed Kirk 6 weeks ago. He actually played a local show at a tiny little theater here with Crowbar. One of the nicest fucking guys you will ever meet, man. I mean, just such a cool guy. And he and I are the same age. Like I said, I'll be 60 in March next year. He's like 11 months older than me. We just connected on all the 70s, Thin Lizzy and Yes and Rush and Mahogany Rush. And we ended up talking more about that shit than we did about what Crowbar and stuff we're doing. And I'm like, hey.
Yeah, I can imagine. I also think, like, Kenny and Johnny from Type O and Sun Don't Shine, like, during that tour, it was very often that in the evening, Franco, the drummer of Celtic Frost, and me, and then Kenny and Johnny were basically hanging out, and they were always listening to Led Zeppelin, having some beers, and
all the classic rock.
And I have fond memories of that entire tour. But what I also wanted to say about when I did this tour, you know, I was basically in the best position you can have, because I was just the live guitarist, the sessionist, so I didn't have any other responsibility except for playing the show. Basically, we didn't have sound check, because, you know, we were in the middle. There was an opening band and brand new team, and then there was Type O. So we just, I just had to be backstage like an hour before the show, get warmed up, do my corpse paint, and play a proper show. And usually during the day, I could basically do what I wanted. So I could see a lot. Usually, unless we were in like really bad or unsafe places,
Sure,
like
sure.
Baltimore, for example.
Detroit. Baltimore's not as bad. Baltimore's not as bad as people make it out. It really isn't, especially the area you were in. There are bad areas, but there's
Yeah,
bad,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, every city in America has bad
Has
areas.
those bad
Just
areas. I know, and
reality.
that's something that I really need to get used to, being
Yeah.
from a small village in Germany, because as
Sound
I
like-
say, like the most dangerous place in my area that I know is when I walk through that one certain forest and there's a farm and they have a stupid dog that runs out
Yeah,
and
yeah.
starts barking at you, and I'm a bit don't come too close.
Yeah,
But that's about the most dangerous thing that can happen in my hoods. Yeah, and I don't want to talk bad about Baltimore, and I agree. Like those areas where the festival is nowadays, like directly at the harbor, that's really, really cool there.
Oh, yeah.
But still, like at that tour when I was in Baltimore and just like walking through the town and trying to get some food, I was a bit like, oh, I have a bad feeling. I have the feeling that I really shouldn't be here and that it's really not safe. Like in that area where I was at that moment, I can't really tell where that was.
Yeah. No, I
But
got
other
you.
than that, I always enjoyed just like walking around, getting a glimpse or some idea of the cities that I'm in. And I love that. Like also, for example, I mean, I'm also sure Philadelphia is known for having some dangerous spots.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Kensington.
But I've also been to Philadelphia like 2 times. There's this park with this love sign.
Yep, that's down by the Liberty Bell or the
Yeah.
Liberty Bell and all that. That's
That area is
really good.
fucking amazing, impressive. The architecture, all those skyscrapers. I
Yeah.
was blown away when I was there.
But there's places like Kensington, which is like
Mhm.
the fentanyl capital of the country. I mean, you see junkies laying on the street. I mean,
Mhm.
it's really sad that America, and I don't want to get too political and we'll get out of this real quick, but it's very sad that in America we are probably the richest country in the world, but we have so many people that are suffering. And they don't have to be, but to me, it's the flashing neon lights of greed and the bad side of capitalism. I'm a capitalist, but there's bad elements of it. So we'll get off that. But I wanted to ask you. You mentioned about the Celtic Frost thing, and you were young. I mean, you were what, like 25, I think.
Exactly, I was exactly 25 during that tour.
How did that happen? How did Tom come to you? Like, how did he find you?
I think it happened because of Dark Fortress, actually.
Okay.
So that's the how it happened was that Celtic Frost released Monotheist, their big comeback album in 2006, right? And we were just signed to Century Media Records with Dark Fortress, and so were Celtic Frost, and we released that album Seance that we were also talking before the interview about. That was also released in 2006. So I think when Celtic Frost signed with Century Media, they got like a bunch of albums from the record company, just so that they would see what kind of other artists are on the label.
Sure.
And it seemed the album they liked most was the Dark Fortress Seance album. So also our Century Media A&R told us like, hey man, we got to tell you something. Like Tom from Celtic Frost, he was really digging your album. And then short after, we got the request or were invited to be support band with Dark Fortress for Celtic Frost for their very first comeback shows. I mean, technically they had one show first in Switzerland, but then on show 2 and 3 of Celtic Frost, I was already there as like guitarist of the support band, and especially after the second show,
to watch you do your thing.
Exactly, and then also after the show, we started talking like the whole band, and it was actually really, really friendly, respectful, nice, and I think after the second show, our former singer Azathoth from Dark Fortress, he asked Tom if he would be interested to do guest vocals on the next Dark Fortress record,
which was on Eidolon.
That was Eidolon, yeah. Even though back in the day it was supposed to have a different name because, then it was still with Azathoth. And then after that, soon Azathoth left the band and Morean came in. And then the whole text lyrical concept changed, and then it was called Eidolon because of Morean's text concept. But anyways, we were just about to start recording that album that was called Eidolon later, and our singer contacted Tom again, like, okay, if he would do those guest vocals. And after a while, Tom answered, said something like, yeah, sorry that I didn't come back to you yet, but there's a lot of going on with Celtic Frost. But I have a completely different request or question, like, could one of the Dark Fortress guitarists imagine joining Celtic Frost as live guitarist? Because we need a new guitarist, and we already met each other. We might be musically compatible. We both speak German. You don't live that crazy far away. And I was like, oh wow, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, that had to be kind of a mind fuck, right? Kind of a mind fucker moment.
Right? Yeah. When our singer told me that, I was like, okay, whoa, okay, now it's getting serious. And like a couple of days later, I was on the phone with Tom, and I think only 2 days later, I was in Zurich in the rehearsal room and having a session with them, trying out stuff. And I was already very well prepared because I was just checking out which songs did they have in their set list on the recent shows, and I just took out like a dozen of those songs and learned them. So I'm prepared. So we had this rehearsal, and after the rehearsal, I was in.
Well, let me take you back real quick in a quick Reader's Digest version here. You, if I recall correctly, in an interview, you mentioned that you have an older brother that's probably more like he probably younger than me. So
he's younger than you. He's
I'm gonna guess you're about 40-ish. We'll just leave it there, right?
He's 54.
But you're like in your early 40s, I'm guessing. So
yeah, exactly.
And he's about 10 years older than you had mentioned.
Exactly.
So, and that was where a lot of the influences of hard rock and that classic rock, and then the new wave of British heavy metal stuff started to come into your life. And what were some of the bands that you remember really formatively going, oh wow, man, and like leaving such an impression on you that you wanted to pick up? I'm assuming guitar was your first instrument, or no?
Yeah, it was. The bands that got, like, I think the biggest influences, like from my early days, from my childhood, like it was for sure Slayer, Metallica. Bathory was kind of important. I always loved Bathory. It was mostly those bands, and a lot of stuff that, like, my brother got into metal when he was like, he was born in 1971, and I think he started listening to the stuff when he was around like at the age of 14, 15.
Sure.
And then I just also heard the music that he heard, and like the stuff that he heard. I always say it attracted me like moths are attracted to the light. Was magic to me. And I was just listening to what he was listening, and I didn't know always what I was listening to, but I had some really strange experiences, like, I don't know, 10 years later, that I very often, when I was like just walking or riding on my bike, I can put a radio on in my head.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Just like imagining songs.
That soundtrack of your life, sort of thing.
Yeah, in a way, and I also just made up my own songs in my head.
Oh, okay.
Before I could play guitar, and I was just like, I just imagined things. And there was some part in my head that I always thought that I kind of imagined, and it was a melody that always came up. And then at some point, I think I was like 14 or something, I dig up a Bathory record. It was Blood, Fire, Death. I listened to the record, and I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? This is the part that's been in my head for 10 years, again and again, but I didn't even know that it existed. So obviously, I heard the record back then as a kid a lot, without being absolutely conscious about it, but it formed me subconsciously. Also, the other absolutely crazy experience was, I think I was in 6th grade, and a friend of mine had Metallica's Kill 'Em All on a Walkman.
Yeah.
We had this school trip, and I was sitting in the bus, and he was sitting next to me with his Walkman. I was like, hey, can I also listen? And I put on his headphones, and I listened to Kill 'Em All, and I was like, I heard it for the first time, I thought, but I knew the songs completely by heart. I heard the first part and I knew what would come next.
Yeah, yeah. How about
Exactly
that?
that would happen. And afterwards, again, I was like, what the hell is that? But and then I still remember when I heard Seek and Destroy, I got completely mental. I got this tape with me and I went home and blasted it on full volume, like the whole song. Then I rewinded, with tape. You still had to wait for a
Right.
minute, and I heard it again, and I repeated that for like 10 times. And yeah, that's
So
like
so
that's the stuff when you discover music. That's like I wish I would still be as easily excited nowadays as I
yeah.
excited back in the
feel
day.
you.
But it was so crazy. Like I heard these songs and I thought I haven't heard those records before, but I knew them already by heart because I heard them in my brother's room,
How about
like in a passive way. But
yeah.
so it's hard to say what kind of records really influenced me most because a lot of it was in a probably subconscious way. But for sure, Metallica, Slayer, Bathory, and then also like when I started discovering music by myself, I was also like I like the early '90s death metal stuff. And for example, I loved Seven Churches from Possessed. That's one of the albums that I really listened to a lot, or the first Entombed album,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
things like that.
Okay. Well, so how old were you when you picked up the guitar?
I was 15.
Oh, that's kind of late, actually.
It was pretty late, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I took so long, and honestly, I wanted to be a drummer, sort of. I always felt extremely attracted by drums. It was just, basically my father was a very musical guy and super much into music, and my three older siblings, they basically had to learn an instrument, and then with me, he kind of gave up. But there was a violin for me when I was 5 years old, and I was not interested in playing violin. I felt like, no, I don't want to play the violin. It's not my thing. I'm not interested in it. And I felt like if I'm supposed to play music, then I have to do something like that. And I didn't really want to. And I had to kind of be an almost grown up until I realized, okay, this is actually what I want. I want to make music. I want to also have the possibility to express myself over an instrument. And basically, it all got kickstarted when I was at a birthday party of Matthias, the Dark Fortress drummer, who was like the drummer of Dark Fortress for like over 20 years. And he was not the Dark Fortress drummer at that time because it was his 14th birthday. Right. And I was 15, and we were just hanging out, and he already played drums for like a year and I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and I couldn't play anything. But sometimes he just showed me like basic beats, like and I could just do it. And so I thought like, hey, let's try to jam. So I was playing drums, he was playing guitar because his brother had a guitar and an amp. So we were making some noise for 1 hour, and it was terrible. And then we thought like, okay, maybe let's swap instruments because you actually can play drums. So at least there's one guy that can play one instrument. So then I was just like fucking around with the guitar. But nevertheless, I think 20 minutes later, we had our first song.
Your first track. Yeah, right.
Not that it was any really of artistic value, obviously, but it was like, it kind of sparked, it ignited a spark.
Yeah, it was the catalyst.
Exactly. And then I think from that time on, like 4 or 5 days a week, we would always like meet at his place. His parents or his mother was like the most enduring, understanding person in the universe, I guess, because we were basically in his bedroom, which was on the first floor, and playing with a real drum and guitars and playing really shitty, terrible music. But this is how it got started. And I was 15 then, and then I thought like, okay, now I want to get serious. So I took classical guitar lessons, and at that time, I actually practiced relatively much. Which I'm not doing so much anymore nowadays, but this is how it all started.
So you had a pretty supportive household then. Your parents were supportive, and
also, I mean, I don't think that my father ever understood the music that I was doing, but the principle that I was doing music and that I wanted to do music, he was very supportive about that. And also, I mean, I think he hated any kind of modern music. He basically liked classical music, and
That's my dad.
anything that
That's
had
my
a
dad.
beat,
Yeah.
anything that had a beat, he didn't like already. You know, I think he even hated the Beatles and Elvis.
Mhm.
And then if you do black metal, that's even more extreme than the Beatles, I have to say.
Yeah.
And well, I don't think I never play. I didn't even want to play anything to him, because for me, music, it was not about like being super rebellious about against my parents, because I got into this music at an age where rebellion doesn't apply to you that much when you're 4 or 5 years old.
Sure.
For me, it was mainly about the music, and I just wanted to be left alone, and I just wanted to be able to do what I want. But at least he was supportive, like saying like, okay, you wanna take music lessons, sure, no problem, I'm gonna pay for that. And also, like, then later when we played international shows with Dark Fortress, and I played in Celtic Frost, and I was, you know, touring in the United States, playing in Australia and stuff like that, I think he was really proud of that. And
I bet.
to a certain degree, yeah, supportive for sure. Yeah.
Now, see, like when I started playing at 8, I got my first acoustic, and what I would do with it is Kiss was my thing. That was my gateway band in the mid 70s, Kiss Alive, right? I'm 9, 10, 11 years old. And my dad used to call me Alice because I had longer hair. I wanted long hair like the rocker dudes, right? So he'd call me Alice, and he called the stuff I listened to noise. So it was kind of the complete opposite. He had no support at all. But despite that, I've become a pretty decent guitar player on my own. But Dark Fortress, was it your first proper band, or did you have other sort of bands before that happened?
It was my first proper band. I mean, I had a first band before, in which also then Seraph, the Dark Fortress drummer, and Draug, the Dark Fortress bassist, they were part of this band. The band was called The Shroud, but we never released anything. That was basically our first band. And it was more like, it was actually thrash metal. And at that time, like end 90s, I think it was, for that time, it was relatively modern thrash metal. Like influences were stuff like, obviously Slayer, Metallica, but At the Gates, for example, was an influence. I don't know if you know that Swedish band Darkane. That I
I've one of their CDs.
That debut album, Rusted Angel, I was like, wow, that's so awesome. Or Testament, The Gathering, stuff like that. That was something that I was really digging at that time, and we were influenced by that. But we had a problem to get a complete lineup, and you know, we're struggling a bit. And then our bassist was asked by Dark Fortress if he wanted to join the band, and then Matthias and me, we were next, and all of a sudden we were all in Dark Fortress, and that was pretty much it with the band. And I regretted it for a little time, because I also think the first album that we would have made, the songs were really, really, really cool. Not perfect, but really fucking cool, I think. But anyways, that was the first thing. It was a good learning lesson. But then Dark Fortress was the first real band that I was in, and I was in there for over 20 years.
Yeah, I mentioned to you that it was kind of somewhat of a new band to me that I didn't really run into until the pandemic, like 2020, and your last album, which turned out to be
that's interesting.
Last album. And I think I came to it honestly through the Morean Alkaloid connection, to be honest with you, because I at my age, I've been there since the beginning of all this stuff. But to be very blunt with you, when the first wave of black metal was happening, Bathory, King Diamond, Venom, even to a degree, I liked all that stuff. But I was a prog nerd, dude. So I came from Rush, Fates Warning, Dream Theater, you know, the classic Judas Priest, the new wave of British heavy metal guys, all that stuff, the Saxons and Maidens. That was my jam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That got me into. So when the more extreme, and then of course Metallica, the thrash scene, which I was pretty attached to early on too. You know, I saw Metallica open for Ozzy in 1986 on the Ultimate Sin tour. Yeah, I miss Randy, but I did see the Jakey Lee Ultimate Sin tour twice. I saw Queensryche open and Metallica so I saw Cliff. And the thing that I struggle with a lot with the extreme metal was the vocals to a large extent.
I can imagine,
It was this, I loved death. I loved, the extremity of Obituary and Atheist and stuff like that, but I couldn't get my head around the vocals for a very long time.
Mm-hmm,
It changed. It's kind of the opposite now. But one of the very first albums I ever bought, I bought To Megatherion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But based mainly on a Kerrang article about, because they were really in on the changing dynamics of metal around that time. And so, man, I wish I still had that. I don't know what happened to it, man. I had the original Noise vinyl. I don't know where it's at. It would probably be worth quite a bit of money now. But that, so Celtic was definitely one of the very first bands that I kind of got into. I just wanted to check one thing here. Let me double check my notes. So I dug into the Dark Fortress catalog the last week or two, knowing that this might happen. And dude, I gotta say, man, I was kind of fucking blown away by the albums. Like,
thank you very much.
There is so much. It's a very progressive black metal band. It's very much like in the maybe a little more extreme at times, but you can definitely hear Dissection, and you can hear Bathory, you can hear the Touchstones. They're there. I mean, we're a product often of the things that we listen to, but one of the things that kind of blew my mind was how progressive a lot of these songs were. From a guitar aspect. As a guitar player, I'm listening. That's what I always key in on first, is like, what's going on with the riffs? What's happening here?
Yeah.
And were you the primary writer, or was it you, Morean, and the other guitar player? I forget his name.
Asvarger. Or second guitarist.
Pronounce it right, anyways.
I was never the sole songwriter of Dark Fortress, but I wrote the majority. Like on the last couple of albums, like Morean wrote the lyrics,
right,
and I wrote maybe 80% of the music.
Okay.
But it was always also in a way co-arranging. So some of the proggy stuff definitely also comes from our drummer.
Okay.
Because of the beats that he approached, or even though sometimes I can be very particular about the drums, because usually when I write music, I always hear the drums in my head. And sometimes I come up with the beats, and then the beat also has to be like that. Nevertheless, we always somehow manage to find a compromise.
Right.
But for example, especially Venereal Dawn, I think the 2014 album, that's probably our most proggy album, and there a lot of the beats and the proggy stuff, or a lot of the elements that make it a bit more proggy, I think is also due to the drum beats and the drumming approach, and because our drummer really, really liked also to challenge himself and not to just do the standard stuff. He was a bit bored about that.
Yeah.
And I think also some comes from that. But yeah.
Well, I know for a fact, as I told you before we started, I spent a shitload of money on chasing down a bunch. I think I got 4 albums. I got Venereal, Eidolon, Seance. Seance. There's one more in there. I can't remember which one it was. Oh,
Ilum?
Yellum?
We pronounce it Ilum.
Ilum, yeah, which was really killer. I guess maybe my only one thing that I would say as a negative, so take this, as constructive criticism, is some of the albums, and I think it was kind of a product of the time, some of the albums are pretty long. Yeah. And the thing is, with how much is going on, and nowadays anymore with ADHD and the TikTok generation and stuff, and I'm a product of it. I hate to say, I mean, as I get older, it gets worse. I found myself going, okay, that song might have been 3 minutes
too much.
You know what I mean? That's the only. But
I agree. I have to say, I mean, we have how many albums did we do? 8?
8 or 9, yeah, 8 or 9, I think, yeah.
8 official albums. Well, the debut was a different time. I wasn't even in the band, and then the second album, Profane Genocidal Creations, that was we had to find our own style and how we would work together. So that album is kind of imperfect to me. And then the next 3 albums, which were Step Wounds, Seance, and Eidolon, they are all sort of concept albums.
Right.
Where there's basically an overall story over the albums. And I think that especially Seance and Eidolon, they are for me they have the perfect balance. They are long, but they are not too long, in my personal opinion. But then the next album we did was Island, and I really asked for, hey, can we maybe for once not make a concept album, because I would just like be able to just write music,
Right.
just write a song. And then there were songs from then Morean and Seraph wrote a song or two, and also Asvarige.
Kind of ballooned, yeah.
In the end, we had a lot of songs, and maybe too many, but we wanted a bit too much. And I think with Island, I think that album has some of our best songs that we ever did.
Oh man,
But
Osiris.
Complete, yeah, Island, Osiris, Even Fall, The Valley. Those are kind of my favorites. I really, as the world keels over, those are my favorite tracks. But as a whole, I think the two albums before that, as an entity, they were stronger, and there was maybe a bit too much going on. And in hindsight, I also think if we would have dropped like 2 or 3 songs from that album, or even 4, and instead of having a 74 minutes album, have the best 50 minutes, it would have been better. So I actually agree with your critique. Yeah,
I think too, it's kind of, there was at that era, that point in time, the CD was kind of the medium of choice because vinyl hadn't really made a big resurgence, and there was this kind of desire by the labels and maybe a headspace of bands to go, well, we got 70 minutes to work with. That doesn't really mean you have to do it, but everybody else was kind of doing it, you know?
I mean, back in the day when we signed with Century Media, there was also like in the contract it says an album has to be at least 45 minutes.
Yeah, right.
And 10 songs. Then we said like, okay, our songs are pretty long. What if we make an album that is 60 minutes long but has only 8 songs? So I said like, okay, let's change the contract. It has to be at least 7 songs, but 45 minutes. Which is fine. I mean, the contract says we have to deliver at least 45 minutes. It didn't say it has to be 75 minutes, which we did.
Yeah, right. But as a creative artist,
a bit of extra.
But I think as a creative artist, you always, when you're in the moment, you're like, man, some of the best shit I've ever done. This is so wicked. I don't want to leave this on the cutting room floor on the tape deck, or
exactly
on the hard drive. So I get it. Can I steal you for about 15 minutes? Because I don't think I can wrap everything I wanted to hit on.
Of course.
Okay, I want to be respectful of your time. But I wanted to hit on obviously Triptykon, and I want to talk gear and recording a little bit too. So
awesome,
yeah. So so you shuttered the project in 2023. You did a final tour to support the last album, which I hate to say, I didn't write the name of it down. So what's the name of it?
The last album is Spectres from the Old World.
Yes, and that was the first album I heard.
Yeah.
Again, coming to it from Alkaloid to because a friend of mine hit me up. He's like, dude, you gotta check this Liquid Anatomy out, man. Shit's crazy. It's like Yes meets fucking Morbid Angel meets Obscura meets, I'm like, and he's right. All those things are accurate, right?
Yeah.
But I can't
great compliment also.
And I really dug what I liked, but it was the beginning of the pandemic, and you had too much time to absorb. I was also discovering my illness, and at that point in time, I didn't like money was very, very difficult. I had to get on disability, and it was a nightmare. So I wasn't able to go back, but I've made up for it. I bought a bunch of your albums in the last couple of days, so I don't feel guilt now. I'm going to own a bunch of
good.
Why'd you shutter the project? Was it just that Triptykon was taking up too much time, or was it just lack of interest from everybody, or?
It was just that at some point I had the feeling, or we had the feeling that, with this group of people that Dark Fortress always was, that it was the last time we could pull it off with Spectres. Like, the band had been very, very stable for a very long time. I mean, since Seraph and Draug and me joined the band, like in the year 2000, around 2000, 2001.
Right.
We only had one lineup change for a long time. That was when Azathoth left and Morean came in, but we were stable for a very long time. But then, life changes. People get into different stages of their life. They got, some of them, have a job that they really like. They have families or whatever, and then priorities almost shift. And I had the feeling, okay, the band is somewhat falling apart. It starts to crumble. And there's two ways. Either we keep on with a completely new lineup, and I hate that when that happens to bands. I don't like to see that with my own favorite bands. And I was like, do I want to do something with my own band that I hate about other bands? I'm not so sure about that. And also, to be quite honest, I was lacking inspiration. I had the feeling, I kind of said what I wanted to say in that kind of vibe and emotion. And maybe I was also a little bit burned out from the band, to be quite honest, because the band was always like, it demanded a lot of energy. You had to give in a lot, and what you got out felt like smaller.
Well, I was going to ask you, if I could interrupt for a sec, were you making a living from the band? Was anybody making a living? Okay, it was not.
I was making a living from the studio. No. Like Dark Fortress was like a time-consuming.
It was a labor of love.
Hobby.
It was a labor of love, creative love.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, I was also in Triptykon for many years already, and I could see the balance of what you have to, the energy that you have to give push in, and what you get out. The balance
it gets skewed
good in Triptykon.
Oh, it's good. Right. Yeah.
It's good. And with Dark Fortress, it was by far not as good. And it's not just about talking about the fees or the money that you make for a show. Obviously, the fees of Triptykon are better than the fees for Dark Fortress were. Sure. It was not really about that. It's more about that sometimes you have like 2 or 3 concerts a year, and you realize still, I have to write fucking emails for 1 hour every day.
Yeah.
For what? For like business stuff is going on, and in the end you've been playing 2 shows, but every day of your life is getting you have this I hate writing emails. I hate taking care of music business. It's a necessity. But if it's all about that, and you have the feeling, where's the music?
Right.
Like I want to play, and always it's like when you do only 1 show, you have to warm everything up. You have to start practicing that stuff. Then you have to get the band together. You have to rehearse for a couple of days. It's a lot of effort to put a band together for just 1 show. If you have regular shows, if you do that,
you're in a
you get the machine rolling, and then 2 weeks later you have the next show. Then you do a tour. Then maybe you have a month off. Then you do the next show. It's always there. It's always present, and that's healthy for a band. But if you have these long breaks, it's so hard to get back from that break. And to basically, at some point, I realized that when we got a request for a concert, like when we get a cool offer, a cool request for a concert with Triptykon, I always feel excited. It's like, oh, cool. I hope this is going to work. Hopefully we're going to do this show, because I love playing shows. At some point, I realized with Dark Fortress, it was the other way around. I got an email from our booker, and I'm like, I know we should do that. Oh, shit. Oh, God. And I have this production there, and then I don't know when I hope we're not going to do that. And it's like, oh, God, now it's happening. It's like, oh, fuck, this is my reaction. Yeah. On a show offer that I'm like hoping it's not gonna happen. That is really, really bad. And I'm so glad that, for example, now that when we get these show offers for Triptykon, I genuinely feel excited every time. Yeah. Like, do you want to travel 30 hours to the other side of the world for 1 show? Like, yeah, it's a kind of stupid idea, but yeah, fuck yeah, I want to do that, to be honest. And I just had the feeling, we are all friends in Dark Fortress, and we still see each other. And I thought, like, maybe let's keep the friendship intact. And if things start getting frustrating, let's focus on the awesome things that we did. We also wrote albums that we are all super proud of, that I am super proud of. And I also had the feeling, hey, I don't have these great ideas at the moment. I don't feel the fire, the urge to express.
The inspiration was kind of gone. The inspiration,
yeah. Like, especially when you listen to like stuff like Seance or Eidolon, I was burning inside. I had to get that stuff out.
Right.
And that's when you make the most meaningful music. Yeah. And if you don't feel that, I think it's in a way, you can still make decent music. You can make good music, but is it gonna be like, wow? Is it gonna shatter anyone's
But then
soul or emotions. If you don't feel that by yourself, it's like
you're kind of going through the motions then to just put some product out or just to create something to keep something going. Yeah,
exactly. And we were not interested in just creating something for the sake of it. We wanted to say something if we really have something to say. And we always did this with Dark Fortress. And when we had the feeling, I don't know if we still have something to say in that way or that urge, maybe let's stop while we are still awesome at what we do a last tour. We even got a live album from that, which I'm really proud of, which was never planned, but I thought like, wow, we actually played really, really good, so it's worth releasing it. So I think we did the right thing. We ended the band in dignity. We feel like, okay, this is what we are doing. Like in 2023 when we played these shows, I felt like, okay, we can be really proud of that. I don't know if we can still be proud of that in 5 years if we would keep on doing it, but now we are still a good band, and I want to say goodbye while we are still good at it and not miss the point.
Yeah, I get it.
And
so
start sucking.
Yeah, you did this sort of honorable. We're going to take our bow now when it's the appropriate. And like you said, it's if you're not inspired to pick up the guitar, to get in a studio and write, and you're not all on the same page to create something cool, kind of what's the point of it at that point, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe also one part is also, I mean, as you can see in the background, I'm basically in the studio all the time. So that's like not, in a way, that's maybe also a little bit that was also maybe the issue at some point with creativity and Dark Fortress, that when you listen to other people's music all the time and basically analyze other people's music, then after 8-9 hours in the studio, you're satisfied. You're saturated with music. You don't feel like, okay, now I want to create more music.
Right.
So the more I started working as an engineer, as a producer, I honestly have to say it kind of had an effect on my own creativity, that it got less.
I see. Okay.
It's a bit of the trick of the job, but
that's a good transition in 1 sec here. I just wanted to touch on Triptykon and one other band that you did with Morean, which was Noneuclid. Noneuclid, okay. Yeah. Which I picked up both those albums yesterday too. I found them pretty cheap. I was kind of surprised. I thought they'd be crazy expensive like the first Alkaloid album is, but I was able to get CD copies at a reasonable price. And I had never heard those albums. I knew of the band, but I didn't actually know that you were involved in it. And I'll tell you how I explained it here. I basically said, by the way, I wanted to read something funny to you. Do you know the website, the database called Rate Your Music? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's like a database where regular Joes can just write a review of an album. Yep. And it's and it's a rating system of 5 stars and all that stuff. And sometimes I go in and go, am I hearing, what am I hearing here? I want to, so I'll use it to kind of help me sometimes buy stuff. And generally it's very good. But this is fucking hilarious. For Venereal Dawn, I went in and the first review there is like, this is almost a super fine album, just 72 minutes and 35 seconds longer than it should be. You have to laugh at that. I laughed at it because I listened to it and I'm like, this fucking album's a masterpiece. What the hell? So it's always in the ears of the beholder, right? You know what I mean?
It absolutely is. I mean, if you would try to please everybody, then don't become a musician. It's
exactly
absolutely impossible.
I just thought you'd find that a little bit
pleasing business.
I just thought you'd find that a little bit funny because I thought that was fucking hilarious when I read it. Would you ever see a point that maybe is it a never say never thing with Dark Fortress? I.e., you think it's kind of done? Mostly, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think. I mean, it's not an absolutely never again because there's no bad blood between.
But unlikely.
And yeah, not unlikely. There's also like some other stuff emotionally attached, that some stuff that I don't really want to open up again.
Want to go back to
no, I think it was also hard to end the band. Like, it was very emotional also. But I'm okay with the decision. I don't regret it, and I think it's good as it is. And I'm happy with the decision, how we ended, and also, as I said, what if we would come back and somebody would like pay a lot of money for one comeback show? It still would be like, yeah, but it's so much effort to
So
do
much
that for
work.
one show, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh.
So
I don't think it's very likely. But I mean, that's also the weird thing. I love the music still. I'm
Oh,
super
yeah.
proud of it, and sometimes, I mean, of course, I'm not listening to my own stuff very often, but like a
Right.
couple of months ago, I was actually listening to Sions and Eidolon, and I was like, holy shit. Because I was also reliving some of the emotions that are in the music and that I put in there, and I can still feel them. And I thought, like, wow, this is actually
Pretty
those
good.
emotions, at least for me, they really come across.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of intense for me still to listen to that, and that what makes me proud. That it's music that is not just technically good or solid, but that at least it evokes emotions in me.
Connective. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the
And
non
if
new.
that's that with other people, then it's the best thing you can achieve.
Well, I mean, I'm a new fan, and I went out and spent a lot of money because I connected to it right away. And I'm very picky about black metal, so
Yeah,
it kind of
me
surprised
too.
me that I dug it as much as I did. But I think it's because I like your writing style a lot, and there's a connective element there. With the Noneuclid, you did 2 albums with them, and that's Morean, obviously, and
Yeah.
the drummer from Dark
Dark
Fortress.
Fortress.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
What I said about that was it's kind of like crazy Devin Townsend madness wrapped up in genty experimental progressive riff orgies. And it's kind of the precursor in a way of Alkaloid, I think, because it kind of
A bit.
Alkaloid. Yeah.
I think
Alkaloid's a little more.
honestly, I don't know if the other guys in Alkaloid agree, because I mean, of course, Morean is an Alkaloid, but the other guys of Alkaloid were not in Noneuclid, which is actually not true, because Linus Klausenitzer, bass
From
player of Alkaloid,
Obscura.
he was already in Noneuclid.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Alkaloid is kind of like Noneuclid 2.0.
Without you. It's without you.
Without me and without our drummer, and I
Right.
think with players that are technically poof. I don't think I have the skills to play in Alkaloid, to be honest. I mean, I would have to practice a lot to play that,
Yeah,
because
there's
like
some
Christian Minsner did, also what Andy Tunker did, like
crazy.
not Andy Tunker, Danny Tunker,
Yeah,
the third guitarist, what those guys do on their instruments is
crazy
like,
fucking playing. So
and I mean, Hannes is such a
Ah.
fucking brilliant drummer and also songwriter. And I mean,
Solo
Alkaloid,
artist.
it's a group of people where everybody is basically a virtuoso, and there are not many limits in what these guys can do. So that's why I say, okay, in the core, of course, there's Morean's style, Morean's imprint is in Alkaloid, and there was a lot of Morean in Noneuclid, and it's still there. But of course, there's also a lot of Hannes and a lot of the other guys in
Yeah.
Alkaloid. But there is a certain connection for sure.
Triptykon, real quick. We kind of know those albums. I hadn't listened to them in quite a while. I went back and jammed them last night, dude. I saw you a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But I gotta be honest with you, I completely forgot just how monstrously fucking crushing those 2 albums are, man. I mean, there
Thank
just
you.
isn't much that's heavier than that from an emotional standpoint, from a riff standpoint. I mean, Goetia, man, when you kick in with that riff, that humming sustain, and then it does the down, the dissonant part. And then it kicks in with the fucking. It's like getting curb stomped. You know what that is, right? You know where you put your jaw on the edge of a curb.
Oh yeah.
You know, from American X or whatever it is, the movie.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Dude, that fucking out the first album, Epistera Daemone, right?
Daimonis. Yeah, Daimonis.
Just insanely heavy. Yeah. Quick funny story. I don't have it on vinyl. I have the original CDs when they came out. Mm-hmm. So late last night, I was in a bit of a buying frenzy because I just picked this up. A couple weeks ago, I got the Blood Red one. It's the reissue. but I'm trolling around on eBay, and this is just the most bizarre shit ever. I see an OG copy of Obscura, and it's a lot of them are very expensive now, the OGs.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was like good, and it had one picture, and it was pretty blurry. And I'm like, I sent the guy a message. Hey, is this an OG for sure? Yep, blah, blah, blah. Here's the numbers. I said, and he wanted, I'm not going to say what he wanted, but it was very doable. And I'm like, I look at where it's coming from, and this is fucking crazy. It's coming from the town 6 miles away from me.
No way.
So I called him today. We exchanged numbers. I'm like, do not sell it. Take it off. I'm going to meet you for coffee this afternoon and pick it up for that price.
Wow.
Is that bizarre?
That is bizarre.
When you think about the size of the internet and eBay and the reach of it, and I find
say hi to the guy when you have a coffee with him.
I told him, I said, I'm interviewing V today, like in an hour and a half from now. So, so that's crazy. But I wanted to ask you about writing riffs and music. What's the hardest thing about it? And is it getting started? Do you ever feel uninspired to play or write music? Do you ever feel uninspired?
Can you repeat the last sentence?
Okay, so writing riffs and music.
Yeah.
Songs. What's the hardest thing about it? Is it getting started? And do you ever feel like you're really uninspired to play or write?
Maybe getting really started is the hardest thing, because sometimes it's exactly that you have to do, and sometimes you have to get started even without being like entirely inspired, and then the inspiration comes along the way by doing things. Like Morean once explained it a bit like, it's like because he's a composer also in as his day job, and he has to write all the time. It's a bit like, just imagine you're a fisherman, and you just you throw your thing in the lake, and someday the fish are going to bite.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of stuff, and some other day there's not going to be much. But this is basically what you have to do. You have to put your antennas out in the cosmos and see what comes by, if there's any kind of like inspiration flying in. But if you don't even go out and put out your antennas, maybe nothing will ever arrive. Right. So in a way, you have to get ready for that and just sometimes do things and maybe write something. And what you write is not even good, and you throw it away, but you get into the zone. It's like a meditation, and then you open yourself up, and then the ideas come. And
it's kind of like being an athlete in some ways, where if you lay back and you're not working out and you're not eating right and you're not fueling your body right,
then
you get it rolling. And then once it gets rolling, you start to burn and everything starts to happen. So I know for myself, and you can see I'm an Ibanez guy, so we'll talk about that quick. Mm-hmm. I have Ibanez and Dean and Les Paul and all kind of shit. There's guitars everywhere around me. I know for me sometimes, weirdly, almost all my writing comes on an acoustic. I sit, and I'm like, if that riff sounds good on acoustic, man, it's gonna crush when I throw delay and distortion and all that kind of stuff,
I mean, a lot of the stuff when I was writing the songs for the last Dark Fortress album for Spectres, most of the time when I practice guitar, I don't use an amp. I just sit there with the pling 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 sound on my sofa, and I wrote most of the songs like that, imagining the rest in my head. Often I didn't want to go to the studio next room and again be in front of the computer and work with the stuff that I work all day. So I was playing guitar. I had these ideas, and when I had like a very good idea, I just took my phone, recorded it as it was on the phone, just like as a reminder. And I carried those songs like with the full arrangements of like how the drums are supposed to be, what the other instruments should do. I carried that in my head for 2 years or something, which was also like stupid to do that. But I also have to say, sometimes if I really like just give myself a proper sound, maybe take headphones on, get an awesome guitar sound.
That's the inspiration.
It really can help you to dive into this world and get some extra inspiration. So I think, and there are even songs that I wrote where the whole inspiration came from a particular sound. Like, for example, if we talk about Venereal Dawn, there's this song Chrysalis, which is one of my favorite songs.
Love that song, dude. The riffs on there, insane.
And it's all based on this delay, on this
Yep.
really weird preset that I found in my X effects back then, and I started playing around with it, and it was like, wow, this sounds magical with this sound.
Yeah.
So that's where the entire inspiration came from. If I wouldn't have had that specific piece of equipment, I don't think this song would have ever seen the light of day. So that was really like inspired by a very specific sound. So sometimes I think good sounds can also really like, yeah, whatever inspires you. I mean, you can sit in the car and your motor has a
hum.
and it makes like click click, and you hear a beat in that, and you feel like, wow, this is kind of a cool beat, and you hear something where other people don't hear anything in there.
Right.
You hear something and it's inspiring, and whatever gets you going, and it can really be anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gear. You're an Iceman guy, mostly, right?
Most with Triptykon, yes.
Okay. What other guitars do you typically use otherwise?
Well, mostly I play Ibanez, and I'm also happily endorsed with them, so I'm not probably allowed to say that I also play a BC Rich.
Gotcha. You see my
No, but my first, I had like a piece of shit guitar first, and then when I was 18, I bought a proper guitar, which was a US made BC Rich Warlock. I bought it, I think, in 1999.
I saw
And
you
I
playing
love
that
this
with
guitar.
you're playing that with Rootbrain, right? On the video.
Yeah, I played it live with them, and I played it with Dark Fortress.
Dude, I
Yeah.
have a Warlock too. It's a beater, but it's a fixer upper. I got to put new pickups in and probably even a new neck. It was in a fire. Somebody gave it to me free. Love the Warlock. That's one of the first, most coolest looking design. BC Rich always had those crazy, the Mockingbird and the the bitch and all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are there? I've seen in an interview with you that you talk about you're an amp guy. You're a tube amp guy. You want to hear that
Mostly.
that crush, yeah. But you did mention Axe effects. Do you use much plug-in work at all for anything that you do?
Well, when we talk about rhythm guitars in the studio, I pretty much always use real amps. Like I don't know if you can see that. There's like a little wall of amps here.
Yeah, you got an Engel Fireball, right?
Yeah, there's an Engel Fireball, the notorious PV6505. There's at the moment there's like two Diesel Herberts, but then there's Marshall JCM 800, 900, some orange amp and stuff.
Okay.
And I have this little switcher here, so it's all connected to that switcher.
Right.
All amps on at the same time.
You can turn whatever head on you want.
Guitar in there and just like compare. Okay, how does the PV sound?
Okay.
Switch out, and then I can switch between the sounds as fast as you can switch between a preset, which is absolutely lovely.
Right.
And sometimes I also have like various.
Are your cabs in a different room?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And you have
So
that
it's
mic'd up with what cabs do you use typically, and what cabs do you use?
I mostly use Engel Pro cabinet 4x12 with the vintage 30s.
Okay.
Then theoretically there's also an orange cabinet, but that's in the other studio with my colleague at the moment, also with vintage 30s. And then I also have this old school Marshall 1960A, 1960B with the how are they called, G75. The speakers, I don't like them, to be honest. I pretty much always use the Engel cabinet because I really like it.
When you're traveling, and because Triptykon does all flying gigs now, right? They don't do do you request specific backline for you guys?
Yes, we do.
As far as I know, you don't do this, right? You don't use these, right? Okay.
No. Even the quad contact is a good thing. I mean, I know it, and I'm kind of impressed with it. But I mean, like right now, I was basically talking about what I do in the studio, but I do whatever sounds good. So if I have a great X effects sound or whatever, or if there's a certain, I do have some of the archetype plugins from newer DSP.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's a specific sound in the Petrucci archetype, a clean sound that is so fucking awesome. I wouldn't even know how to do that with a real amp, and if I want that sound, I'm gonna use it.
I have the Petrucci archetype, and I have the Mark II-C and the Gojira, and man, they're fucking insane, man. I mean, I would never play live with that.
Yeah.
But unless I would use it as an effects processor, but because it's superior to most everything else. But at the same point in time, I've seen bands use them live that they just don't have the balls. They don't have the kick in the face that you want from a tube amp.
Yeah, and like especially with Triptykon, we always play JCM 800
Okay.
into a Marshall full stack, and it's like we need feedbacks. We need the response from a cranked up amp. And like there are certain songs, like let's say Abyss Within My Soul, the second track from Iperistera Daimones.
Yep.
It's like da, 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 and then it's supposed to like slowly fall into the feedback, and if it doesn't, it's like it's boring.
Yeah,
it kind of needs that. It's part of the song, it's part of the composition. So with Triptykon we always have real amps, and yes, we have a rider, and whoever books us needs to provide this.
But you run into a lot of problems when you get to these flying gigs that the shit just doesn't want to sound like you want it to sound?
No, not really, because it's like our booking agency makes this very clear from the start. Like also in the negotiations, when there's like a certain fee negotiated or whatever, it's always clear you need to provide 2 JCM 800s, or 3 actually, and the amps and also the bass amp, because we have our very unique special sound. We can't get that really with a different amp, because then we just don't sound like Triptykon, and we sound differently. And I think at a certain level it's also normal that you can request that. So for us, for many years, there was not an issue.
Now, I just was curious if you ran into any problems where you got up there on stage, started to sound checking, like, fuck man, this doesn't sound anything like what we want it to sound like.
Of course that can happen, but it hasn't happened in a while. And sometimes also, like, the thing is, there's also different models of JCM 800s, and we also make very sure it has to be the right one, because there's, for example, the 2210. Model 2210 sounds completely different than the 2203. That's the one that we play.
Are they 606s or EL34s in those?
I don't know.
I got you. Oh my god.
You got me. Yeah, I know a lot about audio techniques, but when it comes to the actual guitar gear, I know the amps, I know how they sound, but if you throw like whatever tubes are in there,
whatever.
That's my lack of, how do you say?
I'm thinking Marshalls are typically EL34s, but I'm not 100% sure myself. But I was just curious if you were that nerdy a tone guy, but it doesn't sound like it. What are you using on the floor up on the stage, other than the looper for Dying God? Anything else? Tube Screamer? Boost?
Tube Screamer?
Okay, anything else? Delay at all?
Tube Screamer, well, my paddle board is like, first there's a Weeping Demon, wah pedal. Okay. That I just use to push for my solos mostly. There's a Tube Screamer. I have an Octaver.
Okay.
Like for like very specific parts, like especially like the prolonging of Triptykon, there are some riffs that are based on an Octaver.
The hang, right? Is that a Strymon, or what do you use for that?
No, what is it? A Boss Octaver.
Okay. Gotcha.
I even have one. No, I don't have it here right now that I could show. Oh no, but yeah, the Boss. I think it's called OC2.
Yep.
Well, I have a volume pedal, because sometimes I do like swells, and I want to have that volume after the Tube Screamer and not do it with hand before the Tube Screamer. There's a noise gate, and I have a delay pedal.
Which delay do you use?
The Boss Giga delay.
So it's the white one or the blue one?
Yeah, the white one.
That's also have tried and true one, right?
Yeah, and the reason I even got 2 of them, because now that's where my setup technically gets a bit more complicated, because what I just described, that's the main stack, like just that's the classic analog thing. And then for like very, very few parts, I have this different setup, and that is basically based on an FM3 from Fractal Audio. But I mean, could be anything. Could also be a Quad Cortex, whatever.
You have an AB stomp box that you kick on the other.
Yeah, I have an AB, exactly. I can just I have an AB switcher, so I can go to the other thing. Right. And there is also another Giga delay in front of it that I basically use as a looper.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
That's why I also need the giga delay, because it's the only one that has where you can have like delay times of over 20 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
And for example, for A Dying God, I need exactly 20 seconds delay time. The loop takes 20 seconds. So, and the other song where I need a looper is Aurore from
Yeah.
the Melana Chasmata album.
Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
I also need some clean sounds and a loop. So for those two songs, I have this special setup. But for the rest, it's all analog.
Well, I just want to say I've kept you way too long, and I apologize for that. However, you are in your studio, Woodshed, right now,
Yeah.
and you do a lot of production work for other bands and other artists. You have a big one coming up here that was kind of how I kind of chased you down, was the mention of the Ruins of Beverast album coming out in November.
Oh yeah, but I only did the mastering. I have. I mean,
Okay, you did mastering. Okay.
I mean, I was involved in that album, but the main
Alex
production
does
is
all
done
the record.
by my
Alex does
colleague,
everything.
Huh?
Alex probably does all the recording on that and the mixing, right?
Yeah, but the studio producer is also the live guitarist, AR, or Michael Zech,
Okay, I didn't know about that.
and he's also a good colleague of mine, and he works in a different studio that is not far away from my place. And whenever I record drums, I go to that studio.
Okay.
So there's also some shared equipment, and he's also a good producer, and he produced the Ruins of Beverast albums, the last three now. But usually with the productions that he does, he always gives them to me for mastering.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
you've done work with Obscura. You've done guest appearances on many things. It would take us another half hour to go through all that.
Yeah.
But you also just recently did the guitars, I believe, reamping, or was it actual tracking of guitars for Behemoth?
What I did, and that was also a cooperation with my friend Michael, who produced Ruins of Beverast. The two of us, we were basically involved with the guitar and bass recordings. So what I really did was I was there for the entire sound check. So I did the guitar sound
Okay.
together with Nergal and Seth and Michael. So we put the mics and did all the things. The actual tracking for the guitars was actually done by Michael.
Okay.
I just did the sound check and I did the editing afterwards. And then with the bass recordings, I tracked half of the bass.
You actually played it, or the other?
No. I was recording Orion. So
Engineer, right.
no. I was engineering it,
Got it.
and there were supposed to be two bass sessions, and I did the first one. And then when on the day the second bass session started, I woke up in the morning. I felt absolutely miserable, like shit. I took a COVID test and it was positive. And it was at the end of the session, and a couple of days later, their big European tour, festival headlining tour started. So it's like I cannot go to the studio and make you guys sick. So they basically flew in another guy from Poland.
Oh wow!
On the next morning, so he tracked the other half of the album, which was, yeah, for me was a shitty situation, a bit disappointing. But yeah, at least I did the bass sound check and tracked half of the songs.
I had two last ones for you because I've really been a time vampire, but I can't thank you enough. This has been a really.
But I'm also talking a lot, so it's I'm to blame.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. I interrupt too much, and I apologize, but I get really excited, and my little hamster brain here goes, "Oh, I got to ask him about that before I forget this." But do you enjoy? You don't have to have an answer to this realistically, but I imagine that the engineering and tracking and the recording process thing, it's really something you really love doing, right? It's not just okay. I saw a little okay.
I love mixing. Mixing is the fun part. The tracking is necessary, but I mean, let's be honest. Tracking rhythm guitars, just being the engineer and recording rhythm guitars, is not the most exciting job. And any engineer that would say like this is the most cool job in the world, I think they're lying, because it's just like it's very you sit there and take after take and let's do it again, and you have to have fix things. And honestly, nowadays, I mean, the reality also developed in a way that most bands track their guitars at home, and then they come for reamping. So most bands, they still need a studio for drums if they use real drums, which
Right.
I absolutely encourage. And they should also definitely use a studio for vocals because that's super underrated. But if you are comfortable, if you can judge yourself, from a technical standpoint, it's absolutely, you don't really lose quality if you track at home. It's just that a lot of musicians maybe have a hard time to judge themselves or don't know so much about editing. So I can help certain guys a lot with tracking. But tracking rhythm guitars is not the most exciting aspect of my job. I think, to be quite honest, I do it, of course. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Like, what I love about my studio job is mixing. That's the coolest thing about it. And if I was only doing mixing and no tracking at all, I wouldn't hang myself. That's where my, but of course, like making the guitar sound with the guitarist, that is cool, that is fun. But you do that for 10 minutes and then you're done, and then you track for a whole week.
It's always that tone chasing thing. Once you come upon that tone where you're like, oh fuck, man, that is it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain that, just unless you're a guitar player or you're a musician, you're like, whatever, dude. But like when you get that moment, it's like almost like an orgasm. You're like, fuck yeah, man. That's
very gratifying. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Last thing, man. Because I did want to focus more on the engineering, but we kind of got into the weeds a lot, and I want to get you out of here. But you mentioned in an interview with Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Cheyenne, yeah.
That was the last interview I did, basically. Like,
cool guy, yeah. Iblis something.
Iblis
Manifestation. Yeah.
Manifestations, yeah.
Really good interview with him. And also relative to your engineering, I dropped the links to all the YouTube videos for
the mixing course that
the mixing course, not Thula, what's his name?
Kohle Audio Kult.
Kohle Audio, which you do a cool interview where you break down a lot of your processes. Also the one with Warren. No, what's his name?
Warren Hewart, Produced Like a Pro.
Yeah. Great interview, and
cool.
Warren's fucking awesome, man.
He is amazing. I was like so stoked to have an interview with him because, like, for us engineers, he's kind of the rock star. I mean, this guy has like almost 1 million followers on YouTube. It's like it's kind of. I thought like, wow, this is a big honor.
Did you see the interview he recently did with Steven Wilson? It's like an hour and a half long.
No.
Oh, it's fantastic. Like, I know Steve very well.
To be super honest, I didn't even watch my own interview because
I get it. When I do these, I rarely ever go back and look at them because I just don't want to know. You know, it's like, somebody will be like, "Hey, you said this to somebody," and I'm like, "I did? Oh, okay, whatever." But I did want to, in the Iblis thing, you brought up the fact that there's a few handful of bands that just can't be imitated. And you mentioned Typo, and I fully agree with that, man.
True,
there's just nobody can beat Peter Steele. That's just the thing. And that guy was epic. And I don't know if you've ever seen the footage of the Pantera opening for Typo in Philadelphia at the Trocadero.
No,
I had tickets to that show, and my daughter was born about a week before that happened. I tried like hell to get my wife to let me go, and she's like, "Nuh-uh," because my daughter had colic, and it was, we never slept for 3 weeks. But so I didn't get to see Typo, which is a complete one of those huge misses that I never got to see them, or Death.
Oh.
Nevermore, I did get to see, and you brought up Nevermore.
Yeah. I love Nevermore.
Nevermore is one of my favorite bands. I think.
Yeah, for me too.
They're coming back. Any thoughts on that? What do you think about that? I'll tell you my thoughts. I know Jeff is scary. The dude's like disgusting, right? I just don't know how you fucking replace Warrell Dane. How do you do that? You kind of don't.
You can't. But I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, because I think Jeff Jimmy's,
it's his legacy.
He has every right to play these songs and to play this music. And I would never say he shouldn't do it, because he has all the right. And I mean, he's a super good shredder. He's a killer shredder and a virtuoso, but there are a lot of great shredders nowadays, but he is one of my favorite songwriters in extreme metal, and he's a riff machine. His riffs are so killer, but it was, of course, this specific combination of his amazing riffs and those very special vocals of Borrelldane that made Nevermore stand out from any other band. And then, I mean, he was an arch enemy for a long time, and I totally respect Arch Enemy. It's a good band, but I could also see, like, yeah, now Jeff Loomis is with this band, and it's probably a great gig and everything, but he doesn't even like write music for that, and it's like such a waste of talent. There's one of the best songwriters, riff masters in the whole metal universe, and he doesn't even have like an outlet for that. So I mean, I wish them all the best, that they find an amazing singer, and it might be good after all.
Well, the things I'm hearing is that Brandon Ellis of Black Dahlia Murder might be the guitar player. Him and fucking Jeff. Oh my God, that's terrifying to actually think about.
Yeah.
But a good analogy to Nevermore might be Alice in Chains.
Oh yeah,
because when Lane died, and I was lucky to see Lane back on their first tour, believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's how old I am. I thought he was irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And when they came back, William's great. He's fantastic. He's not lame, but he's fantastic. But Jerry and Sean and Mike, really, you can't take that away from them, man. That was their...
No, you can. And I also have to say, Lane Staley was like a genius singer, and you can't replace him. But I absolutely love William Duvall's voice.
I do too. I've seen him 4 times.
And basically, I got into Alice in Chains with Black Gives Way to Blue, with their comeback album. I heard that and I was in love with it, and then I discovered Dirt and that stuff later, because I was so in love with their comeback album. So coming back with that particular singer was a great choice.
Well,
definitely. So it worked for them.
I know I said it in there, but we didn't mention Rootbrain, and we should do that real fast. So you got this band Rootbrain, which I'd not heard of. Checked it out. Dude, this is fucking great stuff. And
thank you.
It speaks to me because I'm a 90s guy. You know, I'm in my...
Yeah, it has this grunge 90s.
I lived through it, and I love Soundgarden and Alice. They're 2 of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
I don't make any apologies for that. Fuck anybody that wants to give me shit about that, because I love those 2 bands.
Yeah.
They're iconic bands. Jerry Cantrell on my wall of huge influences. This has that vibe in a little bit more of a Mr. Bungle kind of vibe in a weird way. There's kind of a craziness to the songs. You want to speak to that real fast?
Yeah, I mean the
great singer,
exactly. Jules is an absolutely fantastic singer, and also such a cool guy. And I know he loves Lane Staley. And sometimes when he sings, there is an aspect in his voice that also reminds me a little bit of Mike Patton.
He reminds me too of the guy in Incubus.
I don't even know him.
Do you know? I wish you were here.
Yeah,
Brandon something or other. Really, you know, of that era, kind of when that was kind of happening. Maybe a little post Alice, but. This kid has a great voice, man. I mean, your singer is absolutely crazy good, and your playing is fucking very different from what you're doing in Dark Fortress and what you do, and it's very different.
I'm not writing. I haven't written any music in that band so far. Like the main guy is Thomas, our bass player. He's the Rootbrain, but I really love his style, and the chemistry in the band is really awesome, and we are all good friends. And I didn't even mean to join a band, but when I was working with them in the studio, and then they asked me because then, you know, I ended up playing the lead guitars on the first album. I was like, okay, now that you played it in the studio, like, how about if we ever play live? Do you want to join the band? I'm like, yeah.
It's not an album, it's an EP, right?
Well, there is an album already which has never been like officially released. It's called Breakwater, but the EP is now out over Corpseprint Records.
Right. I have the link.
And I think the EP, in my opinion, the EP is stronger, because with the EP we kind of found our identity,
Mm-hmm.
And with the first album, the music was written before Jules, the vocalist, was in the band.
Okay, all right.
So it's always
Changes the
better to
dynamic.
know exactly which kind of singer you're writing for, and then it
Sure,
just like
sure.
it from the beginning on the songs grow
Yeah,
in the right direction. So I'm happier with the EP.
it's very cool stuff. I was like, not exact because I think you call it blackened grunge or something, or black grunge or something.
We call it black grunge, but it's more like a joke because it's like, yeah, whatever. Everybody needs to put a it's rock, it's metal,
Here's the
whatever.
thing,
But
man. Here's the thing. It's got great, great vocals,
Yeah.
good killer riffs, very anthemic vocal hooks, man. It's hooky.
Yeah.
It's hooky
Yeah.
stuff. Like, you can't get around that. So, V, man, I want to thank you so much, dude. It's been like such an honor to have you on here.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I really apologize for keeping you way, way over. You can send me a bill. Send me a bill. The check is in the mail, as they say. Hopefully, you guys will get back over to the States sometime soonish, and we can meet up in person, have that beer, and
That we should do.
yeah, man. So, hang on one sec. Oh, and by the way, in the description, I did leave links to all the Triptykon stuff, to V's. The only thing he has is an Instagram.
Yeah.
That
And my website.
and the website. I've got that for Woodshed. I've got Rootbrain stuff in there. I've got all the video for the mixing stuff under the Woodshed stuff. I've got stuff in there for Dark Fortress. Facebook, I think, is all that you have for that.
And Instagram.
Oh, I might have missed that. I'll throw that on there too. So, dude, man, this has been such an honor, man. It's so cool.
Thank you very much.
Hang loose one moment, and we'll end there. Okay, everybody, thank you for being here today, and go check out this guy's work. He's fucking amazing, man. And he's super cool. He's not satanic at all. I'm just saying.
Who knows?
Maybe I don't really know you. That's the truth. So, all right, everybody, thank you for being here. And I'm going to be on the road at a bunch of Steven Wilson shows in the next coming days, so I won't be dropping any content. But I might on Saturday. There's a good chance Steven and I are going to go record shopping. So if I do that, I might live stream that. That might be kind of cool to post Steven and I racing to see who can spend more money.